handout's confused. Let's see.
That's
I
what I
see
have.
that 5A. I think that's what it is.
Let me just check the email.
Focus
Yeah,
area
just to
one,
verify.
or is that
Oops.
for area 5? I don't know.
Yeah, let me see. Where is it? I saw an email come through from Juliet, but I just got to get to it.
I know.
All these open windows. I'm like, what's going on?
I know it's getting a little wild here. Let's see.
Okay, there we go. Yep, that's it.
Okay, good.
Okay, so with that, let me show it to y'all so everybody knows what we're doing here.
Mhm. Yeah.
Whoops, what the heck? Right. What do you think about the first recommendation? Let's see. In my mind, that first one looks appropriate. Like it's like basically streamlining everything, which I think needs to happen. What do y'all think?
Yeah, as I was looking at, was it streamline?
Yeah. I mean, this is the whole this is the whole reason we're having this work group in the first place. I mean, not the whole, but this is like one of the driving reasons we're having the work
Yeah,
group in the first place is this. So yeah, these complaints around this, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So I like this one as it is, but do you feel the need to modify it at all?
I think it reads well just the way it is.
Okay, all right. Good, good. So then we'll move on to 1B. I like this one as well. I think that idea of breaking it down into smaller multiple segments, I like that idea. Any thoughts or feedback about this one? Now, the waters do get a little bit murky when we start combining that other idea. That coursework that is assigned and evaluated by faculty should be used for the TPA submission. So we've got the one idea, which is break it down into segments, and then we're combining that with the coursework that's assigned and evaluated by faculty should be used for TPA submissions. So I feel like those are two separate ideas in my mind, but
That kind of reminded me of the portfolio idea. I
Mhm.
think that was thrown out the very beginning was
What would happen if we changed the word should to can?
that's a good idea. I like that. So who's
Is
going
that
to
what we
take
currently have,
yeah,
though?
who's going to take notes for us? Because I know we just received that email from Juliet, and if I open another window, my computer's going
I
to
know
crash.
I'm not in a good position to do that either.
I think I'm in there. Yeah, hold on. It's
Okay.
focus area
Well,
one.
before we do change a should to a can though, is that what we currently have? I mean, you know, I guess I guess we don't have the segment part, but I mean, we currently sort of have that
We do because
option.
there's that updated, what is it, whatever they're calling it, the secondary passing rate, where we can use
Mm-hmm.
alternate measures. If they don't pass, the institution can provide us with evidence that the candidate meets that portion. So
Could
I
we
feel like,
rather than should, could we just recommend or something like that? So maybe not say like we, I guess should is a recommendation. Ugh. Yeah.
yeah.
I don't know. I think, it is sticky to say that we have
But then
vision,
is
but
it sticky?
also
Because it's already happening, right? With the secondary
right,
passing rate, it's already in place.
right.
So I
I
don't know
think,
that.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know that this needs to be here because it's already happening with the secondary passing rate.
Well, it might need to be explicit because in our conversations we were talking about so many people not knowing that it was actually even a thing.
Yeah, and that is true. As a matter of fact, when I was on a visit,
Mm-hmm.
we discovered that the institution was not acting on the secondary passing rate. And
Mm-hmm.
so we provided them with that information. So that's a
Mm-hmm.
good point that you make, Al. Um, Coursework that is assigned and evaluated by faculty. Could
So
we say,
as faculty, I think that's the part that will get some resistance, because it requires some coordination and it requires like a real shift in responsibility,
yeah,
and coordination. But I think that's these are the conversations we're having.
can we say
Um,
something to the effect of, as is the case with the secondary passing rate,
mhm.
institutions are encouraged
Yeah,
to
yeah.
utilize uh, alternate assessments should candidates meet the whatever the language is, it's 3%
Mhm.
or 1%, whatever it is.
Right. Maybe so the specifically saying faculty can be tricky because, well, I guess by faculty, it doesn't mean
It could be adjuncts, it
it could
could
be
be
any
anybody.
faculty, it doesn't
Mhm.
need to be the faculty that assigned the work. I just was thinking about how things actually operate.
Yeah,
Um, let's see.
okay. Good,
Okay.
good, good. Right.
So do you want me to change anything?
Yeah, just that second, after that first period where it says coursework that is assigned and
Uh-huh.
evaluated, did you make that modification?
Just what do I put in? Or so is it the should still, or did you guys add more?
I think we said something like to the effect of, as is the case with the secondary passing rate, uh,
Coursework.
coursework, and that is assigned and evaluated by, again, faculty, which is broad, right? Could
Yeah.
be used for the
You,
TPA submission.
you want me to share this
Yeah,
with
that would be
you?
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. Let me pull it up real quick. I think this. I'm in Firefox. Yes. Okay. This is it. Yeah, I think this is it. Okay. Um. So this is what I changed right here. Can you guys see it? Yes.
Yep.
As is the case with the secondary passing rate, coursework that is assigned and evaluated by faculty.
Yep.
Okay. Should
Should
be.
be used for the TPA submission. Yep.
Okay. And I don't know, kind of hearing you guys talk like the difference between an initial TPA, so the secondary passing rate's used after, right? They don't pass the test and then they can go like,
Yeah. And what we discovered was that the email goes to the candidate, not to the institution.
okay.
And so that's where the breakdown was with that review that I had earlier this week, was that the institutions didn't know who qualified or didn't qualify, but the candidate brought the email and said, hey, I qualify for the secondary passing rate.
Okay, perfect. And then this one, there's no changes, right? We just kept it the same.
No, that one is good as is.
All right, and this is the second one, and then this is the 1C. And then how far do we go? I forgot to write that down. Is
Say
our
that again.
covering? Which slides is our covering?
Mm. Shoot, I don't remember. Let me see. Okay, we go all the way to 1I.
Oh,
One
maybe-
more, that one. Mhm.
Oh, okay. So this is just ours then right here.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
ours.
All right. All right, here we go. 2, 3, 1C. Okay.
I feel like this multiple modalities can be combined somewhere else. I don't feel like it needs its own slide.
Well, it's like the whole idea was if it's multiple, that's not true. So multiple segments is you break it up, and this one was more to allow
For multiple, we didn't want to overemphasize the writing.
correct.
Yeah.
Showing different measures. Or I think you mentioned earlier alternative assessment or
Alternative criteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we can incorporate that idea with another. I don't think it needs its own slide.
Candidates have opportunities to submit evidence maybe with this. Oh, wait.
Yeah, that's like the same idea.
Why are they on two different slides then? Should I move the 1D to the 1C?
Yeah. Well, one of them has rationale. I don't know. Let's find out which one communicates more clearly.
Okay.
A little bit of both.
The TPA allows for multiple modalities for submission components. Necessary because expected writing components can be overwhelming. Intended to address the multiple types of learners that exist. So maybe we keep this one.
Let me see the second one.
Yeah.
I actually like 1D with a little bit of the tail end of 1C.
Okay.
Because I think the first bullet is clearer on 1D.
You
know.
Perfect. Okay. So is it okay? I'm going to copy this.
Yep.
Okay. And then I'm going to strike through this. Oh, if I can find strike through here.
Go to text above where it says text.
Right here. Okay. And then I'm going to go to here and I'm just going to paste it here for now. And then we'll redo it. Okay. Opportunities. This recommendation, looking at these two sentences right here, putting these together.
I don't really like saying overwhelming. I don't like that.
Okay.
But I do prefer more accessible and equitable to overwhelming.
I agree.
One of them places sort of the blame on the candidate in a way that isn't. It makes an assumption about the candidate. Yeah.
All candidates. And then I'm assuming unnecessary stress as well. Taking that out?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. So now we got to put these two together. Necessary to make the assessment more accessible and or we can just keep it with that and take out. I do want to note this, the focus for the writing components, because I do feel like a lot of our teachers have a harder time with that writing piece, and that's where
I agree. So maybe that second bullet, rather than being vague and saying accessible and equitable,
maybe we just say to
reduce
the emphasis on the
writing to make it more accessible and equitable. So because like something like that, like being specific about it.
What did you say, Ursula? To
reduce the emphasis on the written components.
Yeah, thank you, Ursula and Patricia. And then and then emphasizing the barrier and
Okay. And then, okay, hold on, let me just take this out so it's out of my brain. Written
and then
component.
rather than racial bias, I actually might say linguistic bias,
That's a good point.
to be honest.
That's a great point.
Oh,
I like this group. We're cooking. We're cooking. This is the way I like to work.
necessary to make the assessment more accessible and equitable for all candidates, reduce the emphasis on the written components, which can cause a barrier or what, or causing barriers. What should we put?
Yeah.
Barriers.
Yeah. 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 That yeah, I would say, yeah, let's see. The recommendations next week. More accessible and equitable for all candidates to reduce the emphasis on the written components that can cause um that I would say that they currently or that can create barriers causing inequity and linguistic bias or some, something like that. I don't know. I don't know. Causing inequities and linguistic bias. It's a mouthful, but um,
that'll work.
There we go.
That works for right now. Take it.
Yep, looks good.
Implementation. Okay, yeah, I think this one was a good one.
Yep.
And then should I
Period after accessibility. Or you could take that out. Yeah, because we already got that in there.
yeah, right?
Can we go back to the last sentence? I might say barriers, comma, inequity, comma, and linguistic and linguistic bias. Um, just so that you're not necessarily making them all causal.
Yeah,
Like,
that's good.
Just yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
Did you want to try putting accessibility somewhere up here?
I think we've already addressed the inequities and the linguistic biases. I think we could just eliminate this allows for accessibility. It's great to me.
I'm going to read it one more time because it's just yeah, we have accessible. I thought we had it already. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. All right, ready to move on?
Yep.
This one. All right, the RDI work. I remember working on this one.
I don't know. This seems to put more of a burden on the candidates, and I feel like it's already a big lift.
I want to discuss it.
All right, let's discuss it.
Respectful pushback.
I want to discuss it as this one. This is a reframe. This is not an addition. This is a reframe. So, this is about framing how, we do the same task, So when we think about I think the word is incorporate. So, I think the word that's problematic might be incorporate. So when we use the word incorporate, it makes it seem like we're adding something extra. But really, when we're teaching with the culturally sustaining practices, this is the exact same thing, but it is a lens through which we are teaching, right? So I am teaching the same math lesson, but I am using culturally sustaining practices to do it. You know what I mean? And so I think it's the way that the sentence is worded.
From what I remember, I think a lot of the TPAs said that they already do this, but I don't know how to verify whether
that is the case, especially with the literacy standards. Equity is embedded, and so is culturally relevant and culturally responsive pedagogy is interwoven throughout the literacy standards.
The issue is, though, that it's not explicit and distinct enough in terms of how it's assessed. And so whenever things are embedded in the way that they currently are, it's like, oh, it's embedded and it gets lost. So what this is attempting to do is it's attempting to center it and to it It's
I
attempting
just feel like for a new teacher in their, their pre-service candidates, I feel like that should be something that can be accomplished maybe in the clearing phase, but I just feel like that's a lot for the candidate in their first year.
So I respectfully, I want to push back as someone who just published their first textbook on this topic. So,
I hear
so
you. I hear you.
yeah,
I hear
so I
you.
think
And I can respect you
how we
disagree.
approach our professional practice,
Yeah,
like
I
we have to do it from
understand.
the start.
I understand, Elle. I
So
understand. I know all about what you're saying. I've read multiple books on it. I'm well versed on the subject. So I think I can understand where you're coming from. I just, respectfully, I just disagree. I
okay,
think
well,
for these purposes, I feel like it's a
it's sort of
lot for a candidate.
I'd like to finish my sentence.
Sure.
Yeah.
So for instance, when we're teaching Thanksgiving, we don't start out teaching Thanksgiving like through a colonialist lens, and then 15 years later, we say, oh, actually, this is the real Thanksgiving story. In the same way, as beginners, we teach teaching in a developmentally appropriate way that's scaffolded through the lens through which we want our teachers to be able to eventually scale up. And so we need to think about how we
Yeah.
want them to actually be teaching. If we want to have them teaching through a culturally sustaining or culturally relevant lens, then we need to have them scale down and do that as a developing candidate would do from the very start. It's not an addition, that's the lens through which they're teaching, it's
I
I'm
do.
in agreement with
Okay.
Alicia. Um, I understand how it can come across that way as this additional burden, but of all the burdens that we put on the candidates, I think some of the things that are missing are like what are the actual worthwhile value adds to a teacher's or teacher candidate's training, and um, I just as you get further into the profession, you're going to encounter this less and less. So if you're not getting exposed to it and a foundation at the beginning, maybe it'll happen in the next phase, and maybe it won't. It just kind of trickles down. So if you have 100 candidates, maybe 75 will learn something about culture sustaining practices or like really have that accountability, and then just kind of goes down. We, even as veteran teachers, we benefit from um, beginning teachers coming in with this training because we didn't get it when we came through. And so they have a lot of like the latest research and evidence-based practices as part of that. And if it's, already sort of, embedded within it, I don't know if it'll be too much of a difference to kind of figure out how can we center it more.
Yeah.
So
Thank
we
you
might
both.
end
I
up split
appreciate
on
that.
this one.
So then, are you comfortable with the language in this slide as it is, or do we need to amend it at all?
I think the language actually should be amended. I think the language is like triggering some folks. So that's where I think the problem really does lie.
Yeah. So let me clarify. I'm not being triggered at all. I'm a Latina, bilingual.
I mean that the language is what's problematic. Like people are responding to the language of the slide. I think they're like thinking it's meaning something extra, and I don't think that the slide is asking for something extra. Is what I'm trying to say.
Perfect. So let's work on modifying it then.
Yeah. Okay.
You
So
know,
I was in the
it's
original
often-
work group that made this slide, and we weren't asking for anything extra. We were asking for a reframing of how we approached and looked at something that's the same amount of time, the same amount of work. So, yeah. So it's the idea that we're centering something and it's focusing on like something versus making it an addition. It is just what it is. So,
So can we say something to the effect of the TPA work group recommends that the lessons that are recorded
yeah. So it's
center
yeah.
culturally
So
relevant.
yeah.
Because whether they're teaching a history lesson, a science lesson, a language arts lesson, a math lesson, what
Yeah.
we're saying is we want it to be culturally
Accessible.
relevant to that
We
student
want it to be
population.
accessible for everyone. We want it to be taught with all of the learners that are actually in the classroom in mind, their linguistic needs, their diverse learning needs, their like specific like cultures in mind, all of these things, you know. That's what we're talking
And
about.
I would say not even just the cultures that are in the room, because I might be
Yeah,
teaching a history lesson in a
yeah.
predominantly white community, but I want to
Right.
expose them to the breadth of the history.
Exactly. Exactly. So it's like, you know, it's like, you know, not centering exactly. And so it's not teaching a second lesson on top of something regular. It's basically being aware of what's centered in the actual lesson itself, you know? And so
Yeah.
having that awareness. And so it's not asking them to do anything extra, it's asking them to be using this lens as a teacher and understanding that that's part of the ascent, that's part of what teaching is, you know. And so I think incorporate is a problematic word here. That word is making people go, ooh, there's something extra. And that's what I meant by trigger, like, oh gosh, we're doing something extra, we're adding more, we're not adding more. I
Is
think
it so? Let's play with that. Let's play with that term incorporate. So what could we
I say
substitute that
frame,
with?
requiring candidates to frame their work or to, you know what I mean, through frame their work through a culturally like through culturally sustaining like lens or something like that, you know. So that way it's like clear that it's like, you know, um through a culturally sustaining lens that is directly responsive to the backgrounds, identities, cultures. Does that make more sense?
I would say to the marginalized cultures of society or something like that, because otherwise it's like we're only talking about the kids in the
Sure. Yeah.
room,
Yeah. So
and it's
let's
bigger
let's
than
get this
that.
sentence. Yes, I agree. So let's see. To frame their work through a culturally sustaining lens instead of practice. That are instead of directly, that are
That
responsive.
acknowledges
Hang on a second. That are responsive to, and then we'll get to Ursula's part. Responsive to, and then you say the we'll make it
Acknowledge or no?
no, that are responsive to
the backgrounds,
the
identities, and cultures of marginalized populations.
well, we can say, hang on a second. Yes, and hang on a second, that are responsive to the you could connect it to the California social studies framework or the let's see. I mean, you could say to the diverse backgrounds of like California, like diverse backgrounds, identities, and cultures of like California's schools, you know, or California's student populations or communities, you know, something like that, like something like all students, you know, so it's like everybody, because it's not just this, that, or the other thing. It's that it's like,
Well, and I liked Ursula's comment about the minoritized background. So Ursula, remind me where you were wanting to put, is it after
I was
culture?
thinking, so we have diverse backgrounds, identities, and marginalized people or something to that effect, and the cultures of historically marginalized groups or something like that.
Historically, and well, because I think of my disability population, like definitely it's a category that's often not thought of, but very highly marginalized
Mhm.
backgrounds.
Yeah,
Especially with just accessibility in the context of like design, right? Like that whole design piece. Okay. And marginal and historically, is that what we were saying?
yeah.
Historically?
I was gonna say, and the cultures of, so I would just put cultures of before historically marginalized.
Historically
in
marginal.
their learning context. Yeah.
Mhm.
Requires candidates to design and deliver equitable learning opportunities that address this is bullet two.
Hold on, let's hold on real quick. Can
Oh
we go
yeah.
back? And this yellow is kind of what the changes I made. I just need to make sure that
Oh, and it was meant to be requires because right now they already recommend.
okay.
So the change was that it was making the move from we advise, we require, like we want this, to this is a move that we are saying that this is part of what teaching is now.
But the lessons,
The recommends was our part. You still
No,
have
it
the
was a
required in there.
yeah. Jason, you were in the room. I think it was
yeah, we
moving.
Yeah,
were.
but I'm
I
saying
looked.
I'm
Did I,
not talking about that. I'm
did I
saying
think the
the
wrong one?
sentence frame
Oh,
is
I see. Oh,
recommends. Yeah.
recommend. Oh, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
The
sorry.
lessons required. Yeah.
Yeah, so the RDA recommends that the lessons required for the TPs are
Yeah.
centered around culturally responsive, sustaining, and equity-focused pedagogy within the task 5. Is
Yeah.
that good on that? Okay, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Let me unhighlight this so that I can get it off my brain.
Oh, can you move the word incorporate? It's just requires candidates to frame. The verb is frame in the first bullet.
Yeah, I was good. That's the second thing I wanted to double check, but I first wanted to look at this one because
Yeah.
what do I do? Why? Is that what I do? Okay. And then
Transparent.
I messed it up. What do I do? How do I get this back?
Transparent
Transparent? Okay.
at the bottom.
Thank you. Okay. Requiring candidates to frame. So we'll take out incorporate because that's out. Their work.
That is, I think the verb, next verb are should be is, that is responsive.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. That is responsive to the diverse backgrounds, identities. And I have 2 ands in there. So I'm one of them out. And the cultures of historically marginalized students. And
I don't think historically marginalized students is going to fly. I think you're going to need to say all students, because the idea of culturally sustaining responsive equity focused pedagogy is that you're actually responding to all the students in your class. Like, you know what I mean?
So take out historically.
Yeah. I mean, the whole culturally responsive sustaining is supposed to be about that, you know? But when you write it like this, it makes it seem like maybe it's only about that. I don't know. What do you think when you're reading this whole sentence together?
Historically marginalized to me is like a certain group of students, right?
Right. Except it's like
that whole colonial thing, right? Like, okay, these are who are not part of the mainstream, right? Or no?
right.
Are we doing
So
that in the second bullet? We're talking about historically underserved, or do we change that to
Underserved?
marginalized? No, meaning
no, I'm
do
saying
we
in the
need to
first bullet.
historically marginalize in the first bullet,
No,
or
I'm
is
saying in the
it
first
being
bullet.
referenced in
I'm
the
saying
second?
in the first bullet point. Just look at it again for a second and read it to yourself the whole way through and see if if it's standing. I guess it's an and, so I think it should be okay. Well, diverse backgrounds and identity. I don't want it to imply that the only people who have diverse backgrounds and identities are the culturally are historically marginalized students, you know?
Well,
And
but
you know what I'm saying?
yeah, but I think, as Patricia mentioned, it's about more than just, the color of people's skins. You're talking about abled versus disabled, visible disability versus non-visible disability.
I
So,
understand. But what I'm trying to say is I'm trying to avoid the situation where people because like the majority of teachers in our public schools are white. I want them to not think that it's like the only people who are diverse and have cultures are people who are not white. Do you know what I
okay,
mean?
so what term would you use to replace that?
Well, I'm thinking so that like I'm not sure, but I'm worried that this construction of this sentence is going to reinforce that notion for teachers. So
Okay,
I'm just
then
trying to
let's
make sure.
change it. Then let's
Yeah.
change it.
Okay.
Are we still on bullet 1?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know.
And we've
It's
still
a
got
hard.
several slides to go
Yeah.
through.
I
What
know,
time do
but
we need to be back, Juliet?
I would say 3:15.
okay. I
Okay,
don't want
so
them to
we,
kill it though. I mean, it's like this is a good one.
or alternatively, could we give you this slide and you can work on modifying it in the background and we can move on to the other slides? Because you're an expert. You said you wrote a book on this, right? So
I did. It's
I
just got
think you're
published.
up to the task to do this.
I will do it in the background. Okay.
Yeah, is that
But
okay?
are you okay with that, or do
I
you?
am. I am. I just hope that you're not shining me on. Like, I will
No,
do
I'm
the
not.
background.
Or
I'm not. I just feel like you know what
maybe
you're
we
talking
come
about.
back to it.
Yeah.
Well, we are going to come back.
After you tweak it in the background, we'll come back to it and then we'll engage
Okay.
in discussion.
Okay.
Because I don't want you to feel like I'm shining you on. I'm definitely not. I just want
Okay.
to keep us on task.
Okay. That's fine.
Thank you.
Do you
All
need
right.
access to the slide or do you
I
have
think
it?
I have it. It's in that email, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think who's the anonymous dolphin? Is it Jason? I always like these little anonymous peoples.
No, I just shaded knowledge. Is that me?
It
Well,
might be
I'm not in
me.
there, so.
I'm in there. I'm in all of them.
Oh, are you?
I'm on
They come up-
slide 8.
Okay, yeah, they come up with the funniest little names. Anonymous, whatever this is. Okay, so we're on 1F, correct?
Yep.
Okay. The RDI TPA work group recommends that assessor training prioritizing evaluating candidate knowledge, what they can do over analyzing errors or advising school practices so what can be assessed without the use.
Which they've already done away with condition codes. That
Right?
was sent to the institutions, I think sometime earlier this week. I got a notification from my TPA coordinator saying, rock on RDI TPA work group,
Oh, wow.
because
Okay,
they did away with condition codes.
that's awesome. Real-time action. I love it.
Yeah.
So do we need to keep this slide? Should we just strike it through or
I don't know how the group feels.
because you're saying they already did it?
They did. That was one of the interim actions.
So the other thing that's in here is this: assessors should receive training to deepen their knowledge in the specific competencies and contexts they are assessing, including, well, I guess that kind of goes back to the previous slide, right?
Mhm. Is this idea captured in that previous slide? That's my only question. It might or might not be.
Go ahead, Jason.
Am I on mute?
No,
Yeah.
It seems like the focus is not necessarily just on condition codes, but that assessor training is taking this asset based um approach.
It was
Yeah. And that's what we're wondering is if this idea is captured in the slide that Al is working on, or if it isn't, then I think we need to keep this idea intact.
You want me to grab that one too?
Yeah, I
That's me
don't.
as well. 1F.
yeah,
Assessors should receive yeah, we worked on this one too, huh?
yeah, we are
Um,
done.
receive the training and deepen their knowledge, the consequences they're assessing. Patricia, you were in this group too, huh?
It was, I hope I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah. I remember sitting at that table.
Yeah. We had a robust discussion.
I remember. It isn't
Okay.
really captured because we remember we were
So
because
maybe,
this is about the assessors and the other one's about the candidates, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
maybe what we should do is have the RTA the RTI TPA work group recommends that assessor training focus on deepening assessors' knowledge of the specific competencies and contexts they're assessing, including areas like culturally responsive teaching and ethnic studies. So if it were me, I would just backtrack from the A and additionally, and then remove what's up there.
hold on, right here, right here,
Yeah.
right? Taking it
Mhm.
out. So we're taking this out, correct?
Yeah, because it's already been addressed in the interim actions.
Okay. Focus on,
Well, that's going to change the nature of the recommendation.
It is because that we want to focus on this component alone because the condition codes have already been eliminated. And so they're no
No,
longer implementing condition
mhm.
codes. But this
I was
assessor
referring to.
component,
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was referring to, you mentioned that the assessor deepens their knowledge of, I think you were saying culturally sustaining practices, but the that wasn't the original intent of the recommendation, which was just focusing on rather than looking at the deficit, but looking at the assets. Well, what can the candidate do, and then assessing that way.
I
And
see
I
what you're
see that as
saying.
different than them
I
being more
see.
competent in culturally sustaining.
I see. Thank you for that clarification.
That's our training focus on.
The assets of the candidates is what he's saying.
So prioritizing, evaluating
I was
candidate
thinking
knowledge, what they can do.
focus on prioritizing, right?
Hmm.
And evaluating it and evaluating candidate knowledge. You want to
Well,
keep
so
as
yeah,
they can do. I was gonna put based on, what did we talk about? Asset-based approach. Is that what the words we're using? I just wrote
that's
that.
the word I use. Mhm.
Okay. Let me see. It doesn't sound right, but the assessor training focused, assessor training focused, Edie, on prioritizing and evaluating assessor training focused on prioritizing and having candidate knowledge based on an asset-based approach. Assessors should receive training to deepen their knowledge in specific competence. Okay. How does this sound so far?
Other than the S, you're good.
Yeah.
Focused. Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jason, on that feedback?
Reading.
Maybe an asset-based approach for candidates, or is that unclear? Yeah, no, candidate knowledge. Okay. An asset-based approach to assessment, but I don't know what that.
What's the difference between prioritizing, evaluating candidate knowledge and prioritizing and evaluating candidate knowledge?
Right here?
Hmm. Originally, it just said prioritize evaluating candidate knowledge.
Focus on prioritize. I don't know, I just put an end in there. You want to take it out? Right? To be focused on prioritizing, making it a priority, and evaluating
Hmm.
and how you look at the candidate knowledge.
Yeah, I think maybe take the and out. There's two INGs back to back.
Okay, training and training, assessor training to be focused on prioritizing or no?
Maybe prioritizing the evaluation of candidate knowledge based on an asset-based approach. Dang it, now I use based twice.
It's like Tetris. Retort. Focus on prioritizing the evaluated.
The evaluation of candidate
Prioritize.
knowledge.
I say it one more time.
The evaluation of candidate knowledge.
Evaluation of candidate knowledge. Okay, perfect. Based on an asset-based approach. Because I know we have talked about that in this group. Just the assets just people bring. Okay. How does that look, Jason?
It's okay. Well, that based in the base is bothering me.
Okay, we'll take it out. Just take out based. Candidate
No, it's
not
fine.
do focused on an asset-based approach. No, we use focused.
Evaluation,
Huh?
evaluation of candidate knowledge
Using.
through an asset-based approach.
Okay, good and better.
Using,
Whatever you want. What do you want to put? Through. I spelled through wrong.
utilizing.
Utilizing. A good one, good one. Utilizing. Okay. And asset. Okay, perfect. Yay, we did it. Okay. Additionally, assessors should receive. So the rest is good or no? We still need to read through it.
Well,
Okay. Sorry.
I mean, it might be need to be combined into
The other one.
one focus. It's like two different. I mean, in general, it's talking about assessor training, I guess. But it's training in two different things.
Mm-hmm. You want to come back to it
So,
or
yep, come back to it.
okay, let me write this down. We are coming back to 1E.
Yep. We were making 1E too hard actually in the end. When I swung back to it and looked at all of them together, it's covered.
Okay.
So here it is.
All right.
So that first one speaks to the lens. The second one speaks to what Ursula is talking about. The third, it's like it just goes right down through it. It's like otherwise we're saying the same thing like 4 times in a row.
Mhm.
So it's like the first one says the work group requires the lessons required for the TPAs are centered around culturally responsive, sustaining, and equity focused pedagogy with the tasks within the task by requiring candidates to frame their work through the culturally responsive and sustaining lens. So that's like how I'm like framing it up. It's like how I'm thinking about it. The candidates to design and deliver the equitable learning opportunities that address the systemic and institutional barriers to ensure accessibility for diverse learning populations, including lingual learners, students with exceptional learning differences, and historically underserved groups, requiring candidates to demonstrate asset-based pedagogical approaches that value and build upon students' strengths, experiences, community assets, knowledge as candidates central to their teaching practices, requiring candidates to disaggregate and analyze student data. So that's by race, ethnicity, language proficiency, and exceptional needs to inform their instructional practice to provide that high quality experience. And that recommendation was made so that teachers understood how to work with educational data and they could actually see the inequities that exist within the system, like systemic inequities, and to help address at the classroom level what's going on systemically. I think we could strengthen the second bullet point. Historically underserved groups doesn't really like nail it, in terms of like saying things explicitly, but I'm not sure it should happen within the first bullet point. If we do it, it should happen within the second bullet point. And I didn't get that far.
Man, that's awesome. Go, Al.
When I was hearing you talk, I really liked how you mentioned the thinking piece in the first bullet, because again, it's going back to not making extra work, but starting out with these thoughts in mind. Is it okay to add like to frame their work and thinking through a culture responsive or sustaining lens, or do you just want to keep work as work? I don't know. That term thinking really got
Okay.
me.
I guess I mean like I think the idea of a framework is it's just how you understand your work, Um
Anyway, I just wanted to mention that
yeah. Yeah, I mean a lens is just how you see things. I don't know if it needs to be any
Mhm.
more complicated than that, but
And then you said bullet 2, you said needed some reworking, is that correct?
Well, it doesn't necessarily need it. I'm just wondering if it's strong enough because, there's always this tension of like, you know, saying it and then saying it. So doesn't say it.
Does it say what? Or what do you feel is missing?
I think is it strong enough in terms of pointing out the systemic issues?
Always put including but not limited to multilingual learners, and then that way people, because again,
Like
we're talking
like
about
do you feel systemic institutional barriers,
Mhm.
diverse student populations, and historically underserved groups are like being evasive
No.
or not?
I think we're just calling it out. We're
Oh, I'm wondering if it's too weak.
okay. You want to
Yeah, I'm curious to
No, I'm
know
not.
what.
I don't want anything. I'm just being just asking. I'm just asking.
Well, if it feels evasive, I would think that that means that you have something in mind that you feel is being evaded.
Well, I think to ensure accessibility for diverse student populations, I think if it were me, I'd
Hmm.
say marginalized student populations or something like that, because it's like diverse student population. Like, what do you say? I don't know. Just I want to make sure that
Or
we're
maybe it's
calling it
a
out.
diverse. It's supposed to be for a diverse range of student populations
Yeah, that would be
or a
better,
diverse
maybe.
range
I
of.
think, and then we say historically underserved groups, that's better, I suppose. I just want to make sure that we're not, I sometimes feel like some of these words get used as euphemisms for not actually calling out what the problem is. So I just want to make sure it's clear.
Yeah.
well, I'm hearing for a
Can we change?
range.
Yep. Diverse range of student populations. Can we change underserved to marginalized?
Yeah, I think that would be better. But
Range.
I didn't want to like
Is
be bossy about
that
it.
is that okay, Ursula?
Yeah, that works for me.
Marginalize. Okay.
Yeah, underserved sort of, I don't know, just like it's a little soft.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think the language changed in the last few years from underserved to the more
It
marginalized.
has, because it's like it seems so passive. Like underserved is like, oops, you didn't get served, whereas marginalized is like it was an active
And
process.
it's
Yeah,
like a
it was
judgment, right?
intentional. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So okay. So I
Better?
don't know.
Better?
That's where I would sit with it maybe. So
Okay, and then 3 and 4 are good. Let me double check that. Thank you, Anonymous Dolphin. Inquiring Kennedy.
I can be an anonymous dolphin. I'm
thank
not
you, thank you for
anonymous
letting me
anymore.
fuss. Thank you for letting me fuss with that. That was sort
Of
of my
course, absolutely.
that was
And I didn't want you to feel like I was, shutting you out. That was not the case. I could just
I
tell you were
know. Well,
thinking.
everybody has their reason for joining this work group, and that this slide was my reason for joining this work group.
I
So
hear you.
I didn't want to rush.
I wrote the first cycle for CalAPA. That's my baby. It's an equity gap analysis. I share your passion.
Okay, so we're good on 1E then? We're now?
Mhm.
Okay, because I know this is a process, so even though we did this, people might come back and want to change it. Okay, 1F. Oh, this is when we were just kind of, did we want to just move on with the others? Because I know we have 3 more left, so we can always come back to 1F.
Yeah, I think we'll be okay. We've got until 3:15. It's only 2:38. Well, I think
Well, I
we'll
was
be good
hoping
on
to take a
time.
break.
Oh, okay, there you go. All right. Well,
So
let's check. Let's see what the other ones are.
we get through the rest and maybe take a 5-minute break, and then maybe we can come back. I'm drinking lots of liquids too, so I know I'm gonna have to go pretty soon.
Yeah.
1G, work group recommends that the state of California create a specific loan grant program to fund. Yeah, this one came up again in my other group. To fund the candidate TPA. Okay. I don't know. Verbiage on this sounds good, or changes? Proposed
Good
changes?
as is, or do we need to modify it at all?
I think it's straight to the point. Like it, I know what it's asking, and
Are we supposed to be consolidating
We
or
have an
just
option to
revising?
consolidate, but we don't have to consolidate. So the options are to leave it as is, revise, consolidate it with another one, or eliminate it.
Okay.
Is there another one that we're not looking at?
I feel like that one's good as it
This one's all by
is.
itself, right? This is the only one about funding. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. So number 9's good.
Hmm.
Okay. We'll go into number 10. I remember writing this one too, helping write this one.
Me too.
Yeah, huh? We were in the same group, huh, Ursula?
Yeah, we were. I remember that.
I want himself in forever, Jason. So graceful, right? The dolphin so graceful in the ocean.
I can't see my dolphin, unfortunately.
Sure.
So what do you guys think? Is this one good as is, or do we need to modify it at all?
I think, to me, and again, I'm biased because I helped write this one. But let's
Yeah,
see.
so did I. That's why I think I
I
like it
mean,
so much.
we wrote it perfect the first time. I
I know.
don't
Oh, I
understand.
gotta change it now, right?
Any change would just lessen it.
Yeah, I think that's good as is. What do you think, El?
Just reread it.
What I don't understand what the let's see. Let's see.
Uh-oh. Are you helping me out, Dolphin? Go ahead.
What are your what
I
were your
was about
concerns
to.
that drove this one? What perspectives were you worried about lacking?
I
Just
think
tell
that
me.
this one was just getting all the groups together to kind of
Mm-hmm.
talk, and that
Yeah,
like
it looks
giving
fine.
that multi-directional feedback. So yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of, I think Jason, Ursula, and I
Yeah.
were in this group. So
Yeah,
Yeah, it
it
was
looks
just
fine.
so,
right now it's kind of this one-sided, hey, we need to tell you how to
Yeah,
do our test better,
mhm.
but it wasn't multi-directional. Okay,
yeah,
we're learning.
yeah, I'm getting that
How
from
can we
this.
better the assessment?
Yeah,
How can we better our support and integration of candidates
right,
into our LEAs?
right. Yeah, that's clear.
All right, moving on.
Number 11. Okay.
Last slide.
And I think we're going back to 1F.
And I think this was addressed in the interim actions as well.
I think so.
It was. And so that's, I don't remember what the interim action said about it, but I do remember that it was addressed there. So I don't think we need to fix this one because it's already been addressed.
You just write that here.
Mm-hmm. Say addressed as an interim action.
I don't remember reading that one.
Yeah, it was, I remember because we have the largest induction program in the state of California, and my director had strong feelings about it. And we were engaged in conversation with Adam and Mary about it, and it found its way into the interim actions.
What is that? What does that entail?
So what they're saying is that they're not going to wait so the CSTPs underwent a 4-year process to rewrite them. And
Hmm.
so they were considering doing this first and having the programs wait. My program director was not in favor of that. And so after much conversation, they decided that they're going to go ahead and allow the induction programs to move forward with this updated CSTPs. And I can't remember, there was something else that went with it, but I can't remember what it was that addresses this specifically.
Is Juliet around? Sometimes she pops in and out.
No, I don't see her. Marissa,
Yes.
do you remember, does commission staff here who can speak to this?
Hmm.
Hi, Marissa.
I don't have a whole lot of information on this one.
I'm
You
pretty
might go
confident
find Juliet.
Aaron Sullivan will know. I'm pretty confident Aaron Sullivan will know.
Yeah, do you want me to get someone and bring them?
Yeah, that would be great. Somebody who
Okay.
could respond to that for
Sure,
us.
I'll be back.
Thank you.
And you guys want to look at 1F while we're waiting on that? Or
But I
Jay?
think,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Ursula.
no, I'm good.
I know Jason mentioned, Jason, what were you saying? You wanted to possibly break this up into another 2 recommendations?
I don't want to. This seems like
But it would be a better
too.
fit if it's 2 different things,
It's
correct?
well, it's they're both talking about assessor training, but they're talking about 2 different aspects of assessor training. So one is like what they focus on when they're evaluating the candidate, and the other is deepening their own capacity to better assess the candidates and culturally responsive, or examples like culturally responsive teaching.
So if one focused on the candidate and the other focused more like on themselves,
Yeah, like
on deepening their
their
knowledge.
capacity. Mm.
So what do we say? Like 1FA? I don't how what's the letters after? Can we can
Yeah,
add
I would say
Juliet?
1F.
Sure. Or
Yeah,
1F little
We
a.
just say
yeah,
that recommends the the 2 following.
recommendations. Juliet, we had a
Yeah.
question for you, and it's regarding the
11?
new CSTPs. So there was an interim action related to this one where they said induction programs will not need to wait to be able to move forward with the new CSTPs. And there was something regarding this one, but I can't remember what it was.
That wasn't one of the TPA interim actions.
It was. Ask Adam, he'll know.
No, because I'm in charge of them. I've
So
been
then
working on it.
maybe it was in Mary Sandy's work plan or something like
Yeah,
that.
it might, I think it
Yeah.
was in the work plan.
Yeah.
But
What
it's
did it
not,
say about this? Do you remember?
oh, I have no idea on that one, but the strategic plan for this year.
Yeah, that's where it was in the strategic plan.
I mean, I can pull it up.
You want
I
me
just
to
don't quite understand like what it means to develop a continuum of practice from pre-service through in-service.
I think that was to map where it is on that continuum to make it formative.
Map where TPA is?
Uh-huh.
Like having this idea that like they weren't these like spots in time, but that they were part of like a larger developmental
Schema,
process.
right?
Yeah.
A larger schema.
Crossing
Mhm.
over into,
Right.
yeah. If there was a plan, Jason, a grand plan.
Hmm. It's not linked.
Yeah, I don't
It's
remember
Here it
what.
not
is.
addressed in the interim action.
Yeah. It's not in the interim actions, it's in Mary Sandy's strategic plan.
change
You
it?
can
Right
Yeah,
in
and I
say,
there,
can't,
Mary.
oh, you know what? I know where I'll put
No,
it.
Executive Director Mary Sandy's
interim,
strategic
a
plan.
strategic plan.
What
Here,
do I-
I'm
Adam, do
gonna,
you remember what was this? It wasn't an interim action, but it was in Mary Sandy Vixen's strategic plan related to this notion of, are you there, Adam?
He's he's
He's
floating
running.
away.
He's running.
here, I'm putting the link to that report in the slide. Do you see it?
I can't see the paper you're holding up, Adam.
You want me to stop? Why don't I stop share? That way you can share.
It's not linked, I don't
It's
think.
not linked. You're right. I thought it was.
I'll just copy it and paste it, or could we do
That's
that?
right.
There we go.
Exactly.
Executive
So,
Director's report.
so here it's in this. Oh, wait, I can share my screen. Duh.
I stopped sharing so you could.
There, there. Okay, but I opened it. CSTP, is it this?
Yeah, let's see. Induction
Can you,
program support ingenuity profession.
can you scroll back up so I can see Adam taking a knee in the photo?
Oh, there he
There
is.
it is.
Whoa, political statement. Oh, that's funny. Mm, well, this is somewhat related, but oh, there's it. This one.
No, that's our work.
Mm. So then I guess we could still keep it there if we feel it's needed, because we do have the option to either accept it as it is, modify it, blend it with another one, or eliminate it. So I guess that's the question. Do we feel like it's needed?
I
Personally, go
I could
ahead,
say
sorry.
that Mary and I discussed, when we were putting together the priorities, we did discuss the intersection with what's emerging around the continuum in the work group. And so we will revise that. If there's a recommendation that comes from the work group, we're going to put out what's there, and it can be revised based on a recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if it's a stretch. I mean, I think we did that because we were trying to make a case for the TPAs being formative because it is part of a larger picture. But I don't know that I personally have a passion and desire for that to happen. I'll
I
just say
do.
that. What's that,
I have a
Rebecca?
passion and desire.
Okay, well, there you go. Somebody has a passion and desire, so we'll leave it as is.
Okay. You want me to share my screen again?
Rebecca,
Sure.
anything you want to add to it
Well, I
or
think
modify?
it looks a little dense. Thanks for letting me join. We finished, so we came to other groups.
We're on our
That's what
way.
we should be doing.
No, I will, on that note, our goal is to be back in the main room by 3:15.
And we want to live a little break for ourselves for
Yes.
Patricia. So
So
thank
that's
you.
25 minutes.
I just think explicit connection and communication between pre-service and induction is really helpful. And I think clarifying in this continuum of practice to be able even for me as an induction support person to see like, oh, this is where you've been coming from, because I had not heard of TPEs previously. And
Oh,
for a new teacher to be introduced to the CSTPs and see how they connect and help us develop more meaningful ILPs that are really using the IDP.
And do you feel that the language that's in the slide accurately captures that desire, Rebecca, or does it need to be tweaked at all? Rebecca?
I'm reading, sorry.
Okay.
we're talking about this.
I don't know why my video turned off. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I just feel like it's a lot, like it's dense, but I don't have immediate recommendations for making
Okay.
it better. I can ask my
Then we'll
friend.
just keep it. Well, yeah, we'll just keep it as is for now. Then if you want to throw it in Chat GPT and see if you come up with some language that's a little bit less dense, you can jump into this slide and add it there.
Okay.
How does that
put it in the
sound?
note. Yeah.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. All right, we're good to go. Let's take a break and we will reconvene at
Wait.
3:15.
Can you guys look at 1F really quick?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
What do you guys feel about that change of 2 bullets?
Okay. Yeah.
Looks good.
Oh, keep an assessor.
Looks good.
I think that culturally responsive teaching and ethnic studies were supposed to be like examples, like such as culturally responsive
Mhm.
teaching, like studies. It was yeah. So including areas such as areas like that kind of thing. It was like supposed to be examples. Like there are examples that, of areas that are specific or that are areas that not every assessor would have experience with. And so it becomes tricky. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
But then we might need a qualifier for, for the areas,
I know. I
including,
think that culturally responsive teaching and ethnic studies were supposed to be examples, right? Weren't they? Does it
yes.
look like that in that sentence? Does it look like
Yeah,
that's what
but
it's doing? If it does, that's
yeah,
fine. Okay.
And if you
it
want to
does.
play
It's
with it a
just
little bit, play with it a little
knowing what
bit.
would be after. Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Okay.
feel like you can improve it a bit, then I say
No,
go
I'm
right
just
ahead.
no, I'm just checking. It looks good. Yeah, I'm just checking it. It looks like that. Okay.
Well, and I think it goes back to what Jason said earlier. It goes back to like the assessors like not having this knowledge because
Right.
it's different. And so they wouldn't have access unless they're researchers or whatever. But
Right.
like they're in the field working, it's not something that's on the forefront.
Right.
The prep programs are incorporating this already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I think it looks good.
Let's break.
Break
And we
time.
will
So
be
we
back at
log out
3:15. Yep.
and log
And
back
I'll be back at 3:15.
in. All right.
Great job, everybody.
Did it.
Woohoo.
All
See you in
right.
a bit.